This is question number 11 of homework 11. Suppose the economy is starting from a situation of long-run equilibrium. In this case, we know that its equilibrium output Y star is, so the long-run equilibrium means that the output is at its potential level. So this means it should be equal to. Let's go on. Starting from its long-run equilibrium at point 1 in the figure to the right. So this is the point 1, the long-run equilibrium. Suppose the economy experiences a temporary positive supply shock. Positive supply shock. So that means the supply curve, which is upward sloping here, should shift to the right and shift down and to the right. So one, using a line drawing tool, shift a single curve to show the initial short-run effect. Be sure to properly label your curve. So let's use a line drawing tool. So this is the new supply curve, short-run supply curve. That must be AS subscript 2. And 2, using the point drawing tool, identify the new short-run equilibrium. Label this point 2. So this is the point 2, the point drawing tool. So the new equilibrium, new short-run equilibrium must be the intersection of the new supply curve, short-run supply curve, and the demand curve. Demand curve doesn't shift in this case, so it should be the point here. So that's point 2. So initially, this long-run equilibrium is also the short-run equilibrium, right? That's the same because the AS1 subscript 1 is crosses the demand curve at the same point as the long-run supply curve crosses the demand curve. So this is the new short-run equilibrium point. Now let's check our answer. Nice work. By the way, the My Econ Lab has this feature that you actually don't have to draw very precisely. So if you use a microscope and enlarge this curve, yeah, the point here might be slightly off the intersection of these two curves, but that will still be acceptable. So I just want to point out that. So now let's continue compared to its original state. Original state is 1, now the new state is 2. The economy in the short-run equilibrium at point 2 has output that is, so the horizontal axis here is the output, aggregate output. The vertical axis here is the inflation. So compared with the original state, point 1, point 2 has a higher output, right? That's very obvious. So check answer, go on. And the inflation, that's lower, right? That's lower. So that's what the supply shock does. A positive supply shock does. It increases the output. At the same time, it decreases the inflation. So in this short-run equilibrium at point 2, labor markets would likely say increasing. So you have two choices here, slack and or tightness. So since output is above, right, YP, that's the original level. So the new output is above the potential level. So the economy is kind of booming. And when the economy is booming, everybody is working. So maybe everybody is not only working, but working overtime. So if some firms need to hire more workers, they will find it increasingly hard to do so. And if they want to keep their current workers, they might also have to increase the wage, right? So that means the labor markets actually will see increasing tight. That's tightness, right? That's called tightness. So check answer. And let's go on. And corresponding stronger pressure on wages and costs that force firms to raise their. So as we just said, the firms will face the pressure to increase their wages. And because wages are part of the cost for a firm, so the cost of the firm will increase. And in order to maintain the profit, the firms also probably have to increase their price, right? The price to raise their price at a more rapid rate. So if the price is going up, inflation also will go up. So graphically, this chain reaction from wages to cost to prices produces shifts in the short-run aggregate supply curve, AS2, that are, so that means inflation, because inflation will gradually move up, as we just said. So the AS curve will gradually shift up and to the left. So up and to the left. And this shift in the short run aggregate supply curve result in output gaps that are, so if you shift the supply curve up, the new output will gradually move toward the original one. So the gap will be narrowing. And so the final part, and the economy is evolving toward an eventual new long-run equilibrium. So this process, this shifting up of the short-run supply curve, this process won't stop until it actually goes back to the original level, because only when the output won't have a gap, right, then the labor market doesn't have a pressure to increase the wage. So that's why the new equilibrium, long-run equilibrium at which inflation and output are compared to their original values unchanged. All right, so this is a very classical example of aggregate supply shock and the resulting short-run effects and long-run effects on the output and inflation. So we need to understand the process and mechanisms behind the changes.